What I threw out to Harper's Ferry National Historic Site was, you seem game to having MEOW Ranger. Maybe we could have a MEOW, and instead of the BARK, M is must bag your pet's waste and take it to the nearest trash can. E, every pet must be leashed. O, observe wildlife with respect. W, wisdom of rules and where you may go.
Join us for a chat with the experts as we help and encourage you to share in a life of adventure with your cat. Remember, no adventure is too big or too small. We can't wait to learn, grow, and explore with you. Hello, and welcome to the Kitty Cat Go Adventure Podcast, where we discuss various topics related to traveling and adventuring with your cat. I'm your host, Emily Hall, and today I am chatting with Terri Lukens-Gable about visiting state and national parks, the MEOW Ranger Program, and geocaching with your cat.
Terri and her cat Adami are cat adventuring pros. They go for daily walks and visit all kinds of different places. They are a fine example of what it means to be cat adventuring ambassadors. In fact, Terri is currently working with the National Park Service to establish the MEOW Ranger Program. We'll be talking more about that in a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bring Terri on. Hey, Terri.
Hey, Emily. Thanks so much for having me. Adomi's right behind me.
Oh, I see her. Hey.
She's having a little snack on her snuffle mat, but she'll probably... Oh, and there's Kylo.
Kylo is here too. Where is he? There he
Yay.
is. We got the
Say
game.
hi, kitties. Excellent. Oh, yeah. So I'm Terri, pronouns she, her. Adami, my husband Jim, and I live in central Pennsylvania. It's the mid-Atlantic region of the United States. Adami's our ninth cat in over 4 decades of different degrees of cat exploring and adventuring. We get out, we have fun, we love taking advantage of your challenges. She's actually our first purebred from a local breeder, Bellissima Cattery, and all of our other kitties have been like rescues. But she's totally benefited from everything that we've learned from them, all the mistakes that we've made over the years. That all those cats have taught us so much. Mostly our last cat, Brabonto. He passed away a couple of years ago, but they've taught us so much. And back when I was in college, my girlfriend and I, we shared 2 cats, and we would take them camping at her family's cabin near a state park, and we'd walk them by the lake on leashes. Now, get this, and collars.
Oh.
So, yeah, it was in the early 80s. So a lot's changed since then. And gear, equipment, adventure cat visibility. People thought that our one cat was a monkey. Just like, oh, you got a monkey on a leash. And it was back when there weren't clothes for cats. So I cut holes in a sock for my domestic short-haired tabby, and she fell over on her side immediately, and I gave up trying to put clothes on cats for quite a few years.
Yep, I've done the sock thing too.
Hey, got to keep them warm. I wanted to take her out. I was like stuffing her in my coat. It's like, I know, a fuzzy sock. And she's like, flop.
That's funny. Well, I love that your history with cat adventuring goes back so far. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I look back and think of how we were walking them on collars, and just how stable the harnesses are now. Even the harnesses that I don't prefer or might not fit Adami's physique, they're way better than just a little collar. I think soon after going out in the early 80s, I think there were rabbit harnesses and things like that. So soon after that, the things like that were available.
Yeah, and like rabbit harnesses and ferret harnesses, that's usually what we recommend these days for kittens and stuff, because they're small and they fit well.
That was Brabonto's first harness, was a ferret harness, because we were like, what do we do with them? And someone suggested, and it's just a tiny little figure eight thing, but it really worked for him until he could fit into all of the other harnesses. So,
yeah, very cool. Well, you and Adami, I mean, you guys go all kinds of places, but I know that visiting state and national parks is like one of your favorite things. So, what can you tell us about that? What do people need to know about visiting those places? And are there rules and regulations, stuff like that?
that's a good question, Emily. State and national parks are great and not great because of rules.
Yeah.
And nowadays, with access on the internet, you can go out and find each and every one of these parks' websites, and it'll include great tips, maps, brochures. And I want to read something from a specific national park site tip. I'm going to just read their quote. It says, "Remember, you're taking your pet into a different environment and you're responsible for your pet. Do you have enough water for your pet, you and your pet? Does your pet have the endurance and paw pads to hike the trail you have chosen? How will your pet react if you encounter a bear, skunk, or snake? If your pet becomes disabled on trail," that's a good point, "what will you do? With a little preparation, you and your pet can have an enjoyable trip." So instead of just kind of off the cuff, oh, here's a trail, it's like they've got tips out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with that comes the rules, which is like they have limited hours. They limit the access to their day use areas. Pets are limited to certain trails. Pets are not allowed in most buildings and limited to what water access they can have, beaches, and being able to. It's almost always they're asked to be on leash. Unlike some other countries like Australia, any place a leashed dog is allowed in national parks, cats are also allowed.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it's not that way like in Australia.
Yeah.
So it depends how you feel about rules in general. Are you someone that would rather beg forgiveness or ask permission? If you see a sign that says no dogs allowed, you go, that'd be safe for my cat. I'll take my cat there. Or, do you think, I should probably ask? Because that probably just maybe cats were an oversight. If a beach is empty, do you take your cat into the water to practice some cat adventuring, get their paws wet and, throw the boogie board in when because you read it on the website that it's limited and pets aren't allowed, it's restricted area. So it depends on what your attitude is. Do you want to sneak in, do what you want, where you want, in spite of clear signage? Or do you want to run the risk of personal consequences? And with that, it also impacts the future people who want to visit the park with their cat. So you're making an impression if you're caught. And thinking of consequences, the rules are set up because of things like don't go off trail, it might say, and that might be because it's an area that has porcupines. So, I mean, the rules are set up for a reason. And I think that we as cat owners, we can be great role models and gain a lot more respect and cooperation if we can respect the rules and try to change the ones that seem unfair. If it's like set up and it says, dogs only, or some certain cabins are only dogs, open up a conversation. It's like, why dogs? Because cats and dogs both cause allergies. And it's like scratching. Oh, well, the cats will scratch. Dogs scratch too. Open up a conversation instead of just kind of trying to sneak in. But, I'm not that much of a Girl Scout that I haven't bent rules. So, I'm not perfect, but just throwing it out there that's one of the things that makes state and national parks really accessible, that the rules are there and they're long standing.
Yeah, and I mean, of course I've bent rules before too, but I tend to be of the mindset, whatever, if they don't specify cats in any way, will just follow whatever the dog rules are, because I assume the only reason they didn't specify cats is because they didn't even think about the fact that people are coming with their cats. They just assume dogs, So I try to set a good example and follow whatever the dog rules are if there aren't any cat specific ones. I think that's important.
Yeah. I think that's safe.
Yeah. So have you, in your experience, I guess all of the parks have different rules, right? So like what one state park or national park allows doesn't mean that another one is going to have those same rules. Have you found that any particular parks are more pet friendly than others?
Good question. Friendly versus unfriendly, it kind of depends on what your style of cat exploring that you and your cat do and are most comfortable with. Because almost all of us have to drive to get to any of these parks. It's a rare home that lives, close enough to push your stroller or bike to an access of a state or national park. So first of all, your cat has to be comfortable enough to be riding in the car. Mm-hmm. So what is pet friendly? It's like, well, if I have to drive to it, that's something my cat can't do. So that's a consideration, comfort with the car to get there. And then there's, the park or location itself. Just because you want to go on a hike and see waterfalls doesn't mean it's a good choice for your cat. Because, think about what your cat's experienced. And just because, I was there as a kid, I really want to see that again. How's the cat going to feel about that splashing water? And sometimes you almost have to take a step back. It's like, oh, shoot. I totally forgot this might not be a pleasant experience for my cat until you're there. And so you try to think about something like that. Do a little bit of research, find out which parks are pet friendly by accessing their websites in the environments that your cat has found comfortable in the past. Because anything that's new to your cat takes some training, even with really laid back cats, just to say, oh, my cat's laid back, I'm sure they're going to roll with it. Well, Adami's fine with waterfalls, but she's not that cool with fountains for some reason. So yeah. And urban parks aren't for all cats. And there are urban, national parks.
Yeah.
And that's a consideration. So if they have issues with traffic and crowds, then those probably aren't the parks to choose to take your cat to, even if you're like really jazzed about going to a national historic site. And again, with historic sites, a lot of those parks don't allow the pets near the iconic structures and statues because the urine degrades things. And I mean, I'm mostly picturing a dog lifting its leg kind of thing. But at this point, when they say, no pets, they're thinking of dogs because it will erode away some of these old tombstones and things like that. So they'll say that pets can't be in specific cemeteries, historic cemeteries like that. So friendly versus unfriendly. Unless your cat's adventure experience is mostly staying in the car, unfriendly parks are usually the ones that clearly state that pets aren't allowed any place other than the roads or parking areas. Oh. And with national parks, that's usually the really large ones that have limits on their backcountry areas and big parks like Yellowstone, Yosemite, Grand Canyon, Glacier, Rocky Mountains, Great Smoky Mountains, Big Bend, and a few others that leash pets can accompany you, but only along established roads or parking areas and within 100 feet. And I mean, that's in their legal wording. It says 100 feet or 30.5 meters of roads, parking areas, and campgrounds. So that's pretty much just, popping a squat off of a parking area. And they have to be, so but some cats are cool with staying in the van or the RV, and that's their adventure. So that could be a friendly park to them. But if you want to get out on a leash, those parks are a little bit less friendly. And they have to be on almost every national park has a 6-foot leash. But
that's good to know, because I know a lot of people use like the extendable and retractable leashes and stuff.
I actually marked mine with a Sharpie at 6 foot when we were so it's like, okay, brakes on right here, put the lock on, I don't want to be breaking this rule, because I felt like I was, an ambassador for anyone that saw us. It's like, if a ranger sees me, I want to be a real ambassador for having my cat here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons why it's important for us all to be conscientious of these rules, is because cat adventuring is, although it seems common to us because we are all doing it, in the grand scheme of things, though it's growing in popularity, it's still not, commonplace. So,
it's exciting for people to see.
Yeah.
And it was really neat to see people jazzed about having a Dami out in a national park.
Yeah.
So that was the unfriendly. So let me get on to the friendly national parks. And with that, I want to give a shout out to a few social media accounts that really gave me some feedback of where, because they go out in their van and they travel the United States, and they've had some good cat experiences. And so I wanted to say thanks to Thea Explorer Tales, Prem Explorer Tales, Blue Ridge Adventure Cats, Fisher the Maine Coon, Maverick Tux, and Purr Monkeys, Zed of Purr Monkeys.
Ah, yeah, they go everywhere.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They almost all, there are 3 parks that they all agreed on, and Acadia National Park in Maine.
Okay.
So, if you go out to their website, they've got, and not all of these have what we're going to talk about later, which is the Bark Ranger program. So some of these are aside that, but these accounts and others have really agreed that Acadia in Maine, they've got over 100 miles of trails that are open to pets, and 40 miles of carriage roads open to leash pets. Another they agreed on, and I went out to the website and I was like, really? It's White Sands National Park in New Mexico. And it says there's only 2 designated pet walking stations. Now, I'm not clear on whether that's where you're supposed to go and have your pet do their business, but apparently that giant white sand litter box is a lot of fun for cats to walk around in. And I think it was Purr Monkeys. I asked, I was like, wasn't the blowing sand, I couldn't imagine that would be fun. And they had thought the same thing, but Zed loved it. So, and someone else had said white sands, definitely. And the last one I want to mention is, and we totally agree, Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. They only list 12 trails as off limits to pets, and they have over 500 miles of trails, and that includes backcountry. And those are the places that are really limited in the big parks. It's open to leash pets. And again, you have to keep them on a 6-foot lead. They're not allowed in ranger programs. So if they're like touring around and doing sightseeing, you can't have your pet along on that. You have to bag your pet's waste and make sure that you take it with you until you find a trash can. They're allowed in campgrounds, pet-friendly lodging, and almost all the trails. So those are the top friendly national parks. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to add those to my my list of places to go. They sound neat. I've never been to any of them. Have you been to any of those 3?
Yeah, Shenandoah, the Skyline Drive up on Shenandoah. Yeah, that we had a really good experience there.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think that if you don't mind, I'm just gonna list that as probably our favorite.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, out for you personally, what have been your favorite parks that you and Adami have been to? But Shenandoah.
Yeah, the national park, Skyline Drive on Shenandoah. I'll back up and just we live really close to Poe Valley State Park in central Pennsylvania. She's accomplished so many of her adventure challenges at Poe. There's a wonderful mile-long nature trail where you can walk logs and climb on stumps. It's got some wonderful mountain ridges. So I think she accomplished one of her elevation gains walking between Poe Valley and Poe Patty State Parks, creeks, lakes. Although the beach is restricted to pets, we just go down to the boat access and she can get on her boogie board there. And there's pet friendly. I know, her and her boogie. I mean, we started in the grass, just dragging it along. She jumps on it just like she's riding on a little carpet. And then eventually in a puddle. And then there we were in Poe Valley Lake, and she's on her boogie board. It was a good transition. So, yeah. And that was actually in the early 80s. That's back where I was walking the cat on a collar and leash. So, yeah, it's always been a great park, too. State park. Yeah. And it's close to us. Very cool. But, yeah, Skyline Drive, Shenandoah National Park. Adami did so well there. We accessed it from the north end, and it's about 100 miles along the ridge there. And we stopped for a break at Dickey Ridge as we're climbing. And there's just so many vistas. And whether you're a van or RV traveler, you can pull off. And at one of them, and it was the photo you used of Adami in social media on Instagram yesterday. She's on one of those stone walls. Cool. And darned if I didn't snap that picture and turn around, and there's an RV pulling away with a black and white cat sitting on the dash.
Oh, that's awesome.
So there was a cat enjoying it that way. Yeah. They have pet-friendly dining in the outdoor area of Big Meadows Lodge, and they even have a pet menu, Yappy Hour menu.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so you can get a little pork or unseasoned chicken, and the waitress was like, "I've never seen a cat before," and the other waiter turned around and said, "Oh, there was a cat here earlier today."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but Adami enjoyed that. And some people said, "We saw you earlier this morning at Dickey Ridge." And darned if we didn't see them again the next day. We were hiking the trail up to the highest point in the park, Hawksbill Summit, and they took a picture of us at the summit. So
that's cool.
We got such great reception. All dogs were on leash that we came across. And people were like, an adventure cat.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the positives to visiting the state national parks is because they have those rules and they have the rangers patrolling. You don't have to worry about off-leash dogs as much.
Right. Yeah. So again, there's rules. That there are benefits to that because people know they're being watched. Now, I was familiar with Stone Mountain, Georgia, and I wasn't sure if that was a state park near you or.
Yeah, it's about an hour and a half north of me, actually. Yeah.
And the kitties have or have not been there. Have you been to any state parks?
Yeah. I've been to Stone Mountain myself. I've never brought the cats before. We have a state park that we camp at that's about an hour from us called FDR State Park. And we've had good experiences there. We've camped there twice, and all of their hiking trails are pet friendly. You have to keep them on a leash. Their campground's pet friendly. The only places pets aren't allowed is like in the buildings and stuff.
Okay.
That's one of our favorite state parks that we have not far from us. We do have some comments here. Amelia says that she and her cat Trino have been stopping in some state and national parks. She says they're going to Shenandoah tomorrow.
Yes. I think the leaves are a little past peak, but the photos I saw that Archie and Willie of Blue Ridge Adventure Cats sent today, it's still beautiful up there. Oh, my heart just went right back up onto Skyline Drive.
I'm going to have to add that. Virginia, not too far from Georgia. I could make it up there.
I think a lot of people start in the Great Smokies and then they work their way up to Skyline Drive that way. So it's just like beauty upon beauty.
Yeah, very cool.
Are you a cat adventurer looking for a sense of community, extra motivation to get out and do more, and ways to strengthen that bond between you and your cat? Or maybe something to challenge you to push the boundaries of cat expectations? Take your adventuring to the next level in our Trailblazers membership community, where I provide monthly challenges and activities designed to give you that extra push, as well as fresh ideas of things to do with your cat. Trailblazers is made up of cat adventurers from all over the world, some just getting started and some with years of experience, all ready to give you support and encouragement, share in your victories and struggles, and help you and your cat reach your goals. You'll find yourself right at home amongst your tribe. Learn more at kittycatgo.com/trailblazers.
So you kind of hinted at this earlier. You mentioned the Bark Ranger program. And so what is that? Can you tell us what is? Obviously Bark Ranger is going to be for dogs, but what is it exactly?
So BARK, Bark Ranger programs. They're in over 50 national parks and national historic sites in the United States. And it's funny because the way the program is run and presented seems to be determined by the individual parks itself. And I threw a lengthy email out to the National Park Service to try to get some stats and information. And I told them that this broadcast was today, and I was really hoping they'd get back to me with some, when did it start and all this, nothing. So, so I did some footwork on this, and I have determined that each of and it's over 50 parks and historic sites that are participating in this. And it's if you think, oh gosh, is this something my cat can do? I've not heard of any cat being turned down for participating at any locations. And when I called Friendship Hill National Historic Site near Pittsburgh, Ranger John said to me, who am I to say a cat can't participate?
Oh, that's great.
So the program itself is earning the title of a Bark Ranger. And to do it with some of the parks, it can be as simple as just following the guidelines to BARK, which is B, bag your pet's waste, A, always leash your pet, R, respect wildlife, and K, know where you can go. And it's as simple as that. It's like, you're a Bark Ranger if you do those things. But some require you to take a little hike and then check in with a ranger afterward. Some of their websites actually have a checklist of things that you need to see or do. Some parks have you come and take a pledge. And then some will actually give you a little medal, like a dog tag. It's a 1-inch or a 2-inch dog tag. At least 2 locations specifically include cats on their Bark Ranger program websites, Delaware Water Gap and Natchez Trace Parkway. The latter playfully writes, if you have a cat that walks the trail with you, we don't want him feline sad. We positively will let your trail hiking kitty earn a Bark Ranger tag.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
And the tags are similar to this. And some of them have... this is a Dommy's, and she got hers at Harper's Ferry. It says Harper's Ferry on there, and it's about a 2-inch tag. There's no way that she can wear something this large. Yeah. And this was the pledge that she actually took, and they added meow to it. They were really game to not only recognizing, a cat can do it, but they're like, oh no, she needs to be a MEOW Ranger.
Yeah, that's awesome. So speaking of MEOW Ranger, I know you've actually been in touch with the National Park Service about establishing the MEOW Ranger program for cats. Can you give us an update on how that's going and what has been the process, I guess?
Absolutely. Being individual parks that are embracing it, I think it's almost incremental, which are even wanting to have it as outreach. and stewardship at their location. So it's not like there's a blanket MEOW Ranger that can be integrated with Bark Ranger, since it isn't all of the parks.
Yeah.
But what I'm targeting is the actual legal wording and communicating with the national park system and getting them to change that wording. And it's going to take some time. But currently in some places, it actually says dog. And it would be nice if it could at least say pet.
Yeah.
So recognizing that pet is a lot more inclusive, but with the individual parks, making them aware, and just seeing some of the parks are starting to say cat. And what I threw out to Harper's Ferry National Historic Site was, you seem game to having MEOW Ranger. Maybe we could have a MEOW, and instead of the BARK, M is must bag your pet's waste and take it to the nearest trash can. E, every pet must be leashed. O, observe wildlife with respect. W, wisdom of rules and where you may go. And so
I love that. It's perfect.
Yeah, and they put it out on Instagram so that I wasn't the only person having, a finger in it. They were trying to gain some information or traction or interest from other folks to get other ideas what might be interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess the best thing we can do right now, until the legal wording shifts, and all those things take so long, as a community that travels to national parks with our cats, express an interest and say, oh, do you have the Bark Ranger program? Point out how it would be more inclusive if they would change the wording to embrace cats. And they all seem game. So then take it to the next level. It's like, oh, could she take the MEOW Ranger pledge? And, just be good stewards and get the word out there, have our cats doing the right things and show how they can follow the rules too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be curious to know if anyone watching, has anyone else gone through the Bark Ranger program with your cat? Let us know in the comments. I'd love to know if anyone else here is a Bark Ranger. I haven't done it yet. I haven't been to any national parks with my cats yet. So I'm going to have to get that on the list of things to do.
I meant to mention that earlier. When I was doing my research, I actually saw, we had been wrongly told that Adami was the first. Well, she was the first at Harper's Ferry. But back in 2017, I found a cat named Baby Corn became a Bark Ranger at Montezuma National Park. And Zed did at Russell Cave, Mr. Bentley Cat at James A. Garfield National Historic Site. So there are some out there. So I just love to know other MEOW Rangers.
Yeah. Amelia says they were going to do it at Harper's Ferry, but they didn't have it going when we were there. Must have been like too late in the day, she thinks. So maybe another time. Momo and Appa have been to Delaware Water Gap. Wasn't that one you said has a Bark Ranger program?
They actually, they not only have a Bark Ranger program, but they specifically mention that cats are allowed. And then afterward, they're asking for people to send photos of their cats, and they put them out on the web page as Bark Rangers.
Very cool. Oh, so they just chimed in again, Momo and Appa, and said they haven't done the Bark Ranger program, but they've chatted with the Delaware Water Gap about including cats more, and they were very game and have had several cats visit there. So that's great.
It looks like it's happening. Absolutely. Yeah. This is what we do as a community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you'd probably need to look into if a specific park has it or not before you go. That's very cool.
You know what? Even if it's not on the website of the park, I almost would drop them an email or give them a call, because it might be something they have in the works, and it might just absolutely tip them into doing it. So if it's something you're interested in, yeah,
I think it's important for us to ask. A lot of times people don't think about starting these programs until they have enough people express interest. So the more we all express the interest and let people know that there's a need and a desire for it, then the more those kinds of things will start to happen. All right. So let's see. At national parks, we've talked about hiking and some other activities. Another popular activity at national parks and state parks is geocaching. So this is a task that we usually always have on the Adventure Challenge.
That's right.
There's always some people who are like, "What's geocaching?" So tell us, what is geocaching and how do you do it?
Well, geocaching, even on their website, they call it a real world treasure hunt. And it requires some technical things, one being able to access the information on the internet, which shouldn't be a big deal to anybody right now.
Yeah.
And having some kind of GPS or smartphone that can have an app. In the spring of 2000, GPS technology became much more widely accurate and available to the general public. That satellite information was released. And it's right at that time, cars started having the GPS technology and being able to, map out where you're going. So that's when all of that started. And of course, when information becomes available, some people make a game out of it. And that's what happened with geocaching. They fashioned a game out of being able to very accurately pinpoint hidden caches of things. Because the original rules were these containers out in the woods, basically, was take some stuff, leave some stuff. That was the original rules. Take some stuff, leave some stuff. I mean, the first cache was, it included a can of baked beans. It's so ridiculous. And of course, now food is like, no, don't put food in because it draws animals. Try to have clean hands when you handle the caches. So the caches themselves tend to be waterproof containers. And to find them, you go out to geocaching.com. You go out to the website, and I think that you can even put in your address and it will bring up coordinates to geocaches that are close to you. And then you can put those coordinates into either the geocaching app on your smartphone or on a handheld GPS.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And this is how we started, because we were doing it back in 2003.
Yeah, wow. At first I thought you were showing me a really old cell phone. What's that?
We had this before we had a cell phone.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that's a handheld GPS. It's waterproof. You can take it on boats and stuff. So we still use that for geocaching. I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this app. So so the goal is to find the cache, and they're different sized containers. You sign into the logbook, and sometimes, depending on the size or whatever, that's all that's in the cache itself. And you sign in your trail name, which is it's kind of like a handle or a tag. And you trade, if it's large enough, you trade a swag item, and then you rehide it the way it was, the way you found it, or the way it was originally intended. Mm-hmm. The swag items tend to start out as nice trinkets, and you're encouraged to trade equal value trinkets, but they tend to degrade over time. So where it might be like a wonderful quarter from the state and a nice little charm, but somebody decides eventually it ends up being a golf ball and a Band-Aid. So sometimes the swag isn't all that great. So the goal is finding it and logging in, and then you log it online also. So
yeah, the last geocache we found, I had like a kitty cat go sticker, and
perfect.
I put it in there, and then I always make sure when I sign the logbook, I put like Kylo Ren the cat, so that people know like a cat found this geocache. So we have a couple questions coming in about geocache. Darren asks, is it like looking for Pokemon, or is it charted? So Pokemon is like a virtual, it's not physical. Yeah, so it's not like for Pokemon, and because you're actually looking for like real tangible things. But is
Yeah.
it charted? Like, is there like a map, I guess, of geocaching?
There are maps of caches, but you using your it's a lot like Pokemon, that you get close to like a Pokestop, and instead of spinning it, you're close to either the physical cache and you have to start looking to find it, or there are also, and they would probably be used as Pokestops, um, if you get information off of maybe a historical marker, and then you send that information into the geocache owner, and then you're able to log it. So in that sense, virtual caches are probably Pokestops. I think one of the best things about geocache locations is they can take the seeker to a wonderful spot that might be just down the street from you, or on a trail you hike all the time, that shows you something you hadn't noticed before.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh, there's a geocache there. Why would it be there? It's like, oh my gosh, there's a little park there that I never knew about.
Yeah.
So that's that. And that's the cool thing, because it gives you and your cat another place to check out. And cats are great cover for looking for physical caches. And because you're not really supposed to give away that you're looking for a container in under a bush. So while you're poking around under a bush and your cat's like, it's, spending an hour smelling the last place a dog peed, it gives you a chance to be looking under a rock. It gives you a reason to be there.
Yeah.
And back in 2000, when all of this started, it was 3 years after the Harry Potter books came out, and they when people were out finding caches and trying not to give it away, they referred to people that weren't looking for the caches as muggles.
Oh,
and I think that's still
that in the comments. Someone just said that.
some muggles. Yeah.
Yep. And so, like what you were saying about it's cool how you can find things nearby. So I just pulled open the app and it shows me like at my house, but I can see within just like a few miles of my house there are 8 caches.
Right.
And I actually, on the last challenge, I picked one near my house because I was like, well, this is weird, because I don't live like in the woods. I live in the suburbs, I was like,
right.
Well, I always think of it as being like out in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. But the cache that Kylo and I went to was at the mall down the street from our house. There was like a little birdhouse hanging in one of the trees at the mall, and it was a little cache. It was
They
so
can
cool.
be really creative.
Yeah.
Now, some of the ones that can be really frustrating, and this is where it really helps to spend some time when you see that there's a cache near you, to read a little bit about it. Oh, Kylo. Read what size it is. If it's if it's a nano or a micro, it can get really frustrating trying to find something that's a rolled up log in a little metal container the size of your pinky. But if it's a small one that's this size, or a regular one that's the size of a churro container, they're a lot easier to find. There are also different styles. Like traditional ones are physical caches, and they will always have a log in them that you want to sign. There are also things like multi-caches, where the coordinates that you find will take you to a spot, but what you're looking for is something that coordinates are written down that take you to another site. So it'll ping you from site to site to site. And do we have time for a short story about geocaching with, oh my gosh. One of the best moments I ever had geocaching was our previous cat, Brabonto. I took him with me to try. We were so competitive with geocaching. The locals always wanted to be first to find. So I was trying to find this cache with Brabonto. And the very first location, it was a fake water spigot. And it had a tag on it with the coordinates to the next stage. And nobody could find the next stage. And so Brabonto and I were there, and we ran into the premier geocachers. At this point, they found over 33,000. Their name is Corrals.
Wow.
And yeah, they were so dedicated to geocaching. They bought a yellow Hummer so they could go to really difficult terrain geocaches. Anyway, so we ran into them there trying to find it. Well, the little hint, and a lot of times there are hints on the website that you can decrypt, was not alive. And right by the coordinates was this old stump. And you could tell people were tearing this stump apart, trying to find the next set of coordinates. And Corrals and I are looking and looking at this stump. Well, Barbanto goes over and he's sniffing at something, and it was a fake plant.
Oh,
Barbanto found the not alive, and on the underside in silver Sharpie, the coordinates were written on the bottom, and we were all able to proceed to the final, which was a physical cache. And Corrals allowed Barbanto the first find, and we got a ride in the yellow Hummer home.
Oh, wow. What a story. That's awesome.
Yeah, Barbanto was a good geocacher.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's awesome. Kylo is telling me it's dinner time. Kylo.
Uh-oh, did he give you a nip?
No, he's like nudging me. He keeps
Poke.
nudging me like, come on, Mom, come on. So for anyone who hasn't geocached before, I mentioned the app. You just find the geocaching app, and like Terri said, it gives you hints. So like when I click on one of the caches on there, you can opt to view the hint or not. So if you want to not cheat, I mean, or wouldn't say it's cheating, but if you want to make it harder for yourself, don't look at the hint. Or you can look at the hint. It also rates them by difficulty. So I always go for the ones that are like easy or medium, because like you said,
yeah, note the terrain too, because if it's a 5-star terrain, that means it's like steep cliffs and requires like climbing gear. And yeah, just read all the info. It also doesn't, it's not cheating to read other people's logs. And because if you read that somebody hasn't found it since last May, it might be gone.
Yeah, I was going to say, check the log, because it tells you when the last time somebody logged it. And if the date is a long time ago, I wouldn't, don't bother, because like you said, it might be gone. And then it also, like, as you get closer, the app will tell you, like, you're 20 feet away, and it gives you the direction. So, your phone acts as like a compass to take you to the cache. That's how I do it, at least, is on the app. It works.
Yeah, well. It's what we used to call the bee dance, that you walk a little bit this way. It's like a bee trying to communicate with others how to get to the wonderful field of flowers. So you're going this way and that way, and doing the bee dance.
Yep. So another activity that's very similar to geocaching, and it's one that I've never done. You're actually the one that I think I heard about it from, is letterboxing. So what is letterboxing, and what is the difference between letterboxing and geocaching?
Well, a letterbox hybrid is actually one of the types of geocaches. Like I had said about the multi-cache, there's the traditional. A lot in state parks and national parks are virtual or earth caches, where there isn't something that they don't want people tearing up the terrain and walls, finding stuff like that. The earth caches have a geological theme, so that's nice. But a letterbox hybrid, it harkens back to a game that was established over 100 years before geocaching, where similarly there were containers or caches that started out as postcards, and it was take a postcard, leave a postcard, and people would like mail them to each other, kind of like a card exchange, holiday card exchange, except it was like out on the moors in England. And so instead of coordinates, and the clues can be coordinates, but there are written clues, and sometimes they're really creative and written in a poem way. Again, it's out on a couple of letterboxing websites. people can be creative, like follow the blue trail till you see Snowball Hill, and maybe it's just this domed building or something like that.
It's sort of like a riddle. You're solving a riddle.
Exactly. If it's a really good letterbox, once you find it, now instead of postcards, there is a logbook, like with geocaching, and typically a stamp inside. So you take a logbook. Well, here's Brabanto's logbook. This was his signature stamp. So to sign in, you have a stamp that you put into their logbook, and then you get an image of one of the stamps that are in. This was pirate themed, so yeah. And so there's always a stamp in the letterbox that you stamp into your personal logbook. So the best of the letterboxes take you to wonderful locations, have creatively written clues, super hand-carved stamps. Now, to play, a lot of people just get a store-bought stamp to start. Some people just use their thumbprint and like draw cat ears on it, a little tail, and say, Adami was here. But Adami has her own stamp, so yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
that's so cool. Is it as like common as geocaching? Like, are there as many letterboxes around as geocaches?
Maybe more, because you don't have to go through an approval process. So they can sneak in places under the radar. But geocaching is so popular now, I can't say that. But there are a lot of letterboxes out there. You just don't know where all of them are until you solve the clue.
Yeah.
You can go out and put in your location, but even if you put in like your state, there are mystery boxes that if you solve some of the clues, it's like, oh my gosh, that's just a couple miles from here. So
that's so cool. Yeah. I'm gonna maybe put letterboxing on the next challenge instead of geo.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Something different. That's cool. Gosh, I love Adami's stamp. Is that symbol is that like a Star Trek thing?
If you look at it, it's based on Deep Space Nine, a Bajoran symbol. She's named for Kai Wynn Adami, which was like a religious leader of Bajor. And then we adapted it. It's hard to see, but this is hand carved.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a Bajoran symbol with the Deep Space Nine docking rings. It's
so cool. Did you carve it?
You know, it's science fiction geeky.
Oh, I love it. Did you carve it?
Jim carved this one. Yeah. It's anything that has fine details. Jim carved. Oh my gosh! But I think I carved Brabanto's, which was a cat skull and crossbones.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he was a pirate cat. He was named Brabanto is named for a pirate in a ballet. So
very cool. I'm going to start wrapping things up.
If I could encourage people, if they have good experiences in any state or national park, please throw it out there. So when we're traveling in the areas that, we don't have to do it's hard to do research and try to figure out what's going to actually be cat friendly. So let's share that info.
Absolutely. Well, I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much, Terri, for sharing your knowledge and your time with us. I know I've learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to visiting more state and national parks with my cats, trying letterboxing, and looking out for the MEOW Ranger Program. For those listening, be sure to check out Terri and Adami on Instagram at Adami_the_Abby. You can see more of Adami's amazing adventures over there, and I'm sure Terri and Adami would love to hear from you. Are you enjoying the Kitty Cat Go Adventure podcast? Let me know by leaving a review. This will help others to find it and hopefully be inspired to get out there, try new things, and go new places with their cat. What questions do you have about adventuring with cats? Or maybe you'd just like to chat with me about what you learned in this episode. Find me on Instagram at kittycatgoadventures. You can also screenshot this episode and tag me in your stories so I can see who is listening. I'd love to continue the conversation with you, so find me on Instagram or join our Facebook group, Kitty Cat Go Adventure Team, so you can connect with a whole community of fellow cat adventurers. And as always, you can find the show notes, including all links and resources discussed in this episode at kittycatgo.com/podcast. Until next time, happy adventuring.